Is Surging Sparks secretly trying to tell us what is going to happen in the future? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to bring up kind of a hypothetical for everybody here because I feel like Surging Sparks is an outlier of a set compared to a lot of other Pokemon sets right now when it comes to how it is doing in the market. And we're going to take a look at this one. I got a few others pulled up to compare it to, and we're mainly going to talk about Surging and can we learn from Surging going forward of what will happen to some of these other sets. So let's get into it. So Surging has obviously had kind of a rough go at it the past like 2 or 3 months, I would say. Booster boxes 270 to now 240, and I actually did pick one up the other day because they were in the 230s, and I was like, you know what, I'll grab another Surging Sparks box for 230. I don't mind that at all. But they got as high as 300. However, for a set that kind of started the Pokemon boom, like it was prismatic, but Surging's kind of what started it. I mean, you had pre-sales sell out for the first time, or pre-orders, I mean, and you had like boxes, you know, instead of the pre-order being like 140 or whatever they were, they got like 200, and people were like, don't ever pay 200 for Surging, or it was something around that area. But it's now about a year old, so we've got to see what it's done over a year of being in print. Probably has another year or so that it'll be in print, maybe a little bit longer, right? So now I think it's a good time to take a look at it and see if we can learn of what some of these newer sets might do, especially with these other sets being ones that have been hard to get your hands on, been sold out, and will the next year for a couple of these newer sets, like maybe Destined Rivals, also, you know, kind of slow down. So here's Surging. So yeah, released around the beginning of November here. So I think we're like a week from the release here. It was around 200, right? You look at all these sales. 1,300 sold here first week of December. And then it kind of sat mid 250s for a while, got it to 300, and then immediately dropped back down, right? And now back here around 240s. So amidst all of the Pokemon boom, it never really got super crazy. Like now we have sets dropping where they're $300. Phantasmal Flame is like $300 and it hasn't even released yet. And this one never really got super crazy. But now, even with that, it's still dropping a year after release. After the crazy Pokemon year we had, a month now, it has dropped, you know, 12%, but that's a pretty decent margin there. ETBs, same thing. Now, the last month, they haven't really done anything, but take a look at the 3-month cycle here. These got as high as like 120 at one point, I think, right? I felt like they were. Maybe 113 is the highest, but still, these are back now where they were when they released after a year. Took a year, but they're now back to where they were when they released. Pokemon Center ATBs, a little bit different, right? These are, these exploded in popularity for everything, every single set. So, but yeah, the sales data kind of slowed down on those. What is the ETB sales data has definitely picked back up since the prices have dropped. And then booster boxes, what is that looking like? Not really. Not really. It was kind of decent while it was mid 200s there. But it's the booster boxes are not selling that much by the looks of it. Just a few a day. You know, sometimes it gets above 10. But I just wanted to bring up a hypothetical here. I'm not really trying to say I think anything's going to happen. But can we learn from this? That is really the question I want to bring up to everybody. Can we learn from what Surging Sparks did with Destined Rivals? So we have Destined Rivals here, which obviously has had a pretty crazy run since its release. What it dropped in? It dropped in May. Dropped around 250 area. I think it was a little bit before this, maybe, that it released. And then got as high as almost 500. And now still very expensive for a Pokemon set that is just barely like 6 months old, about half the age of Surging Sparks, but is very, very expensive. And it's obviously a different set, and I think it's a much better set overall. But I mean, when we get to the point that we have a full year's timetable, will this have leveled back out to maybe around the same area it released? Maybe not quite. I mean, this is, I guess, about Surging Sparks level. Will this be able to level out? Do we think? I mean, you take a look at that's the ETBs. Surging Sparks 1-year graph had the spikes, leveled back out. Will this be similar once we get this full year in here? It's possible. You know, could it end up looking kind of like the ETB graph, where it just levels back out to where it started. That's why I want to bring up today, because I feel like Surging Sparks is almost an outlier, where a lot of other sets just went up. Surging never really just went up. You know what I mean? It tried, it immediately went back down, but it just sat here for a long time. While other sets like Stellar Crown and Paradox Rift, which are worse than this, got pumped from, you know, like 150 to 200 something. This one just kind of stayed there. Even Obsidian Flames, almost, I think Obsidian Flames at one point might have been more expensive than this, which is crazy. It is a bit older, but you know what I mean? It's not a better set. So this is one set that just always felt like almost got overlooked because after, I mean, you had Journey, you had Prismatic, and you had Destined, and then of course we're in Mega Evolution now, which I kind of forgot about Journey Together. So let's pull up Journey Together booster boxes, because this is another set that isn't exactly amazing, but it's better than average, I would say. You know, it's not atrocious. I do think it has some really weak chase cards, and I'm not going out of my way to buy any of this, especially when like Surging and Mega Evolution are about the same price. But after a year timetable, could it end up right around where it started? It's tough to tell. I'm still on the fence of like, can this stuff get back to MSRP, or is it just going to be more of a they're going to have to just kind of go past this era and try to get back to MSRP with the new era of Mega Evolution? That's kind of what I'm thinking of. But and then you have the ETBs here, which they're more than Surging, and that was released that they got super high. They've actually been kind of going up since release. And then looking at these, just a quick update on them. Nothing too crazy there. But let's take a look at, because we looked at Destined, let's take a quick look at Mega Evolution. I just want to check out the Destined Pokemon Center ETBs first. Yeah, definitely. These are different, like a whole different level of product, man. It's just, there's so few of these out there, and they hardly ever get restock / reprints, and it's happened like once. Like they threw some Prismatic ones up there one time, like 4 months after Prismatic came out. Anyways, here is Mega Evolution, which I think this dropped to, I was looking at this and it was like 240 just the other day, back up to 254. Nothing listable at 256. But I mean, it is still just very much new. Came out right late September, so we really just barely have an outlook of this. But got as high as 320, now 250. Do we think that this stuff can get back down? And will it have maybe just a surge like Surging Sparks and then start to level off? What really interests me is the ETBs. Like the ETBs is a really cool graph to see. I mean, these got super expensive there for a while, and then those reprints definitely helped. I mean, look at that, $70 for one. And as you can see, people are buying them up now. But there must be plenty of them out there, because they are not budging. This is a few months now of pretty good sales. Pretty good sales on the ETBs, and they are still sitting at $70. So those are some big reprints on those ETBs. Those Costco bundles, probably a big part of that. But also, you didn't really notice something that extreme on the Prismatic ones. I mean, they went from like 130 to 100. You know, maybe we could find them in the 90s or something. But I just felt like Surging Sparks is kind of weird, because it came out hot out the gate, and then we had all these other good sets come out, and it never really got the hype that you might have thought it would. And taking a look at it, it was the best set we had at the time. That's why it kind of got the hype. It had the depth of Pikachu, the Milotic, the Latios, and even the Executor and Hydreigon are pretty good cards. You know, they're not super valuable, but they're good cards and provide some depth to the set. And when it came out as SV08, it's definitely the best. I'd still argue it's like top 3. I think I always thought Paldea Evolved was actually better than this, so I'm going to retract my statement. It was definitely not the fully 100% the best. I always had Paldea Evolved above it, but other people talked about this like it was the best. That's kind of what I meant by that. But now I think it's, around top three. You have Destin is one for sure. And then Paldea Evolved, Surging Sparks, whatever you feel is better. Journey Together, I don't think is there. And it's kind of like Twilight next, maybe. Maybe there's one I'm forgetting. I feel like there's one I'm forgetting, but it's late. It's late. I'm sorry. I'm trying to record this and it's late. It's been a long week, but I want to get this video out there because I was just thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bed till I record this video. But Mega Evolution, I feel like this one is going to be something that is able to pull off like a Surging Sparks. I don't know. It's just a weird gut feeling I have, and I've had good gut feelings when it comes to Pokemon. Like I've bought some stuff purely off of a gut feeling, and they've turned out pretty well. But it's also hard to miss in a market like this sometimes. So be careful with that. Pokemon Center ETBs, Journey Together, more than Surging Sparks right now. When it's a newer Pokemon set, I mean, Destined Rivals is better, but it's just like so much more expensive than Surging. When Surging is half a year older, which isn't that much time, but you know what I mean. And even Paldea Evolved, that's a pretty old set now. We're getting close to like 3 years since Paldea Evolved release. And these new sets that just came out are more expensive. Or even like old Sword and Shield era sets, and we got like Destined Rivals that's more expensive than them. Destined Rivals came out in May of 2025, and I was gonna throw out Battle Styles, but that's a bad example. It's Battle Styles, but even like Brilliant Stars is just around the same price point, and it's like Brilliant Stars is not a horrible set, but it's got so much more age on it too, and it's just so weird what we're in right now. That's why I just bring up the question of, will these always stay here through the next year or so? Because these are going to be in print for another year and a half. At least Destined Rivals will be. Will they be able to, make this graph show red? I don't know. I just want to bring up a hypothetical for you guys. What can we learn from Surging Sparks? If it can be anything. Maybe we can learn that Surging Sparks is simply just an outlier and none of these other sets will do anything like it. Or maybe they'll act just like Surging Sparks did once some things start to hit the market at around the 9 month to a year mark that all of these sets have not reached yet. That maybe is what I was trying to get out this entire video. That last sentence right there. So that's my takeaway from this. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry if this was all over the place. I am tired, but hopefully this video made sense.